No, it's fine. Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome to S.A.L.T. As promised, we are in Pachero, which is the building my office is in. In Pachero, we have English, psychology. Right there is actually business. They're right across the hall from. Don't show business. We're doing communications today. And yeah, actually, we're really good friends with business because our two departments do a lot together. And this is going to be communication. We'll show you the comm office and then get to S.A.L.T. First, there's our bulletin board that we try to change every couple of months. And yes, not to brag, but the education department is jealous of us. They came down and said, "You've got to stop. Your bulletin boards are better than ours, and you change them more often." Because bulletin boards is always a big thing for me as a teacher. So here is the comm office. I have to get my handy dandy security card to let us in. Ooh. All right. This is the main lobby. And I don't know, real quick, we try to keep our fridge fully stocked with drinks and everything for students who are thirsty. We'll have to get some drinks for that. And then this is our sitting area where I have actually taught class sometimes because I'll have 4 or 5 in a class and we'll do it here and I can teach from the television and that's fun. But we have all our kids just as much as they can come and hang out and, you know, between classes and stuff. It's kind of fun. We got stuff from all different eras of the communication world. Our latest acquisition, a RCA little home TV from the 60s, I think, and that was really cool. And it still works. It looks brand new. It was one person who owned it all their life and hardly ever used it. Pulled it off of a garage shelf and gave it to us, and that's cool. But we have some cameras. That's actually an 8mm video editor. So if you were, instead of iMovie, this is what you would have used. And a little brownie camera and stuff. Oh, our seasonal tree. So we had that as a Christmas tree, and instead of taking it down, because it was just a pain, we said, well, why don't we just leave it up and we just decorate it differently for different seasons, and that's our spring tree, and we'll have a fall tree, and then, yeah, it's because we're lazy. These are from cool magazines I found in an old building from, in the 40s, and boy, a bunch of, really old ones.
Yeah, would you like to tell them exactly how you found those?
And Miranda will now tell you, because it is a story.
We were driving to a different state, but we were in Texas, I think, and stopped for lunch, and we were just driving around the town, and Brett saw this old building with, the door was open. Mm-hmm. It was kind of downtown-ish in a way, and so he thought he'd just go in and take a look, and he found all these really, really old magazines, and he got some for the department here.
Yes, much to Miranda's.
Yeah, I didn't join him in the building.
No. It was what had happened was it had obviously been in a fire, that whole little thing, and it was one of those little Texas towns where there wasn't even a stoplight. I don't think. It was so small, it was like 6 buildings or whatever. But there had been a fire and so I went in. There was bottles and books and all kind, just thrown all over the place, and I grabbed the best ones I could find. There was actually a bunch more, but I grabbed the best one. This one's actually from 1939, and some of those are like 1930s. So anyway, kind of cool. Here, our other bookshelf, we have all kinds of fun paraphernalia and different things. There's Thomas the Train down there, and I got that because the lights in my office is motion sensor. And so the sensor itself goes behind the bookshelf, so when I'm at my desk, it turns the lights off because it doesn't pick me up, because it's blocked by the bookshelf. So we bought that so that when I am sitting there and the lights go out, I can just send Thomas down the floor and bring him back and he'll turn the lights on. Anyway, so Thomas the Train, speaking of which, I think last week Miranda said, oh, we don't have the Thomas Train up in my office like I did in Lincoln, which was cool. It was in my office on bookshelves, so we went ahead and set it up here on the welcome desk of our, that's a tight one, welcome desk for our comm office. So I actually let the students come in and play with it, and if they want to change the track and stuff, they can. And yeah, it's kind of fun. So the workers will sometimes get into it and they'll play, change the track and stuff, and that's fun. Let's see, what else can I show you? Oh, this is we've gone to kind of a monthly contest of who said it. So if a student can come in and read it and tell us who said it and what movie it's from, then they win a prize. They can't leave and come back because you look it up on Google. But if they come in and read it and they can tell us, then they win a prize. And who said it? For as long as I can remember, I just wanted to do what's right. Do you know? Do you have any idea who said that and where it's from? Well, we'll tell you. Aspen is actually the one who put it up. Aspen, tell us.
Chris Evans, while playing Captain America, said it in the first Avenger.
Yay! So yeah, don't write in. You can't win now. All right, this is the rest of our comm office. There's the different staff offices. This one over here is our editing studio. So it's a combination. Wow, did you hear how the voice sounds different as soon as we walk through the room? It gets real quiet because it's got all the sound deadening. This is one of our professional video editing stations, and it's amazing and wonderful, and you could do a Hollywood movie here. It's got all that. And then this is our new podcasting setup, 4 mics, and this is the Rodecaster Pro 2 for anybody who does podcasting. It's the top of the line podcasting board, and so this is where we create podcasts, and students will edit their videos and their movies and stuff like that. But this is one. I have 2 more of these, one across the hall and one downstairs. So we have 3 editing studios. And our workroom, it's our workroom. We have fridge, microwave, coffee maker. We try and keep popcorn and all that stuff kind of, handy for students to come in or staff and take advantage, but it does have kind of my touch of decor. I've got to get rid of some of this equipment, get it over to the studio, but yeah, I put up the swords and the mirrors and the posters just because it looks like a workroom, and I just can't leave a room alone. I don't know. And we have Miranda. And then this is our conference room. So when we have meetings, mostly just when we have meetings with the business department, because there's only 3 in comm. And so when we get together, we'll hang out in here, or we'll meet with the business staff, and we all meet in here. And there's Miranda being CEO of the company. Oh, and drawings left by Aspen on the whiteboard. And then over here is our new little temporary office space just for either an adjunct teacher or a student worker. And we keep, this is like for equipment and things for my intro to video class. See, I don't even know what's in this one. Oh, yeah, some equipment. Yes. Dun, da, da. And Lincoln Logs. No matter where I'm at, there's going to be toys. And yeah. And then finally, the culmination of the tour, my office. And it starts with, I don't have any batteries in it, but it's one of the comm stations from the original series Star Trek. And it actually does the red alert sound, and it does the shh of the doors all here, but you have to push the button. But it's motion sensitive, and so when you put the battery in, anybody that walks by it starts making the sounds, and it freaks people out, so I take the batteries out. Anyway, this is my office, and yeah, it is as you might expect. I have lots of cameras and toys from long ago, ages past. From different. I thought this one we have an 8-track tape. If anybody remembers 8-track tapes. A CB which works, and I want to get it hooked up so that I can put one over at the house and this one here because our house is just across the street a ways. And oh yeah, all the rockets. So we build the rockets and everything, and more cameras, an Atari flashback, Larry Boy. And can't have it complete without
Doctor Who's.
Doctor Who's. For those Doctor Who and My Little Pony fans. So yeah, and then if our friends from Lincoln happen to watch this, look, the plant's alive! Yay! It's not dead. Yeah, so there you go. Plays we did at Union and my putters from when I was a professional putter back in my early teen years, and yeah, back when Miranda and I looked young. Actually, she still looks young. I look like a dried up prune. Oh, and me as a waiter at Bennigan's back in Chattanooga. And there you go. And the water fountain of peace. So anyway, that's pretty much it. The comm office, and we're going to have a seat and get started with SALT. Okay, so yeah, here we are back at the main lobby here, the comm, and yeah, we're going to do SALT from here today. Hopefully it cools down because they turn the AC off, and when you come in, you have to turn it back on.
I think it is. It's just a little cooler.
Yeah, I hope so. They did send us an email out, and they said we're shutting all the AC to really, really high because the electric department was using these last few days and this weekend to determine the rate, how much they're going to charge for electricity for on campus. So they're trying to keep it like nobody using the electricity. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, here we are today, and we're going to be talking about Jonah. And you should look. We decided. Well, I didn't. Miranda did, to dress very patriotic today.
Yes, Brett was already wearing red, and so I had to choose something to go with it. And I thought, we're pretty much 4th of July weekend-ish.
Yeah.
And so I picked blue and white to go with the red.
So red, white, and blue. We are patriotic.
Yes.
Yay.
We're talking about Jonah today, and Jonah was very patriotic.
Was Jonah a patriot?
He was patriotic.
He was patriotic. He was very. If he was in Texas, he'd have been a real Texan. Maybe.
I'm sure he would have been.
Yeah, he probably would have been.
Yes.
He'd had the Lone Star all over his little prophet house. Anyway, so
I don't even know what he's talking about.
So, how are we supposed to start?
Oh, well, okay, so we are talking about Jonah today, and our main point is when we have to be right, we often do things that make us wrong.
Yep, I like that. Whenever we have that determination, doggone it, I have to be right. Most of the time we do things wrong to make sure we stay right.
Stay right, yes. That's not a good thing, or pretty in any way, shape, or form. No. But yeah, okay, so as most of you know, and some of you have seen, our cat Fluff, well, we actually have 2 cats, okay? But Fluff was a stray that was in our neighborhood when we moved in. And I didn't invite her inside right away because of our other cat, who is 13 years old now. And
although she invited herself in our first night.
That she did. We arrived at like 2:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden her and this other cat just were there tromping all over our cupboards and everything. Yeah. Yes.
And it wasn't like, skittish cat and they darted into the house.
Yeah,
no. They, we were there, I was standing right there, and the cat just looks at me, walks right in, looks around like, oh, welcome, this is our place. And I'm like, where are these cats?
Yeah, they were very friendly cats.
Very, yeah.
Yeah. And but Fluff was very underweight. Yeah. And so I did start feeding her and giving her water almost right away. And one thing, I had to hand it to Fluff because she's a very unusual cat in 2 ways. And one is that she will come when you call her, and it's not just because you have food. If you call her, she will most likely come running.
Yeah, she looks at me when I say her name, Fluff, and I've done tests too, you know, and I'll do muffin, bread, yoo-hoo, and then I'll go Fluff, and then she'll look, and so she kind of learned her Fluff.
Yeah.
And but yeah, when I like weird in that, you know, we'll like pat the, you know, come, and she'll come just like, oh, okay, here.
Yeah.
She's
or back when she was outside, or even after we had moved her inside, if we let her outside for a little while and wanted to make sure she came back in, you just go outside and call her, and she'd come running right on over.
Yep.
Yeah, she's a very good kitty that way. And something else that absolutely amazed me is that, like I said, she was very underweight and such when we first started feeding her, and yet whenever I put her food out for her and she would come running on over, she wouldn't eat right away. She insisted on being petted first, and not just a couple nice little pets and then run on over and eat. Oh no, she was full on belly rub.
Yep.
And just lie there and roll around, make sure you cover every inch of her tummy and everything else. She just needed to be petted, wanted to be petted before she would eat her food. And so she had it figured out right, in that relationships come first before stuff, basically.
Yep.
And now our other cat, on the other hand, she's not that way at all. In fact, she's not above manipulating a relationship in order to get
what she
food.
wants. Yeah.
So what'll happen is I'll feed her first thing in the morning, and not too much later, if she sees Brett out and about and I'm not in the same room, she will look her cutest and meow at Brett and run on over to her now empty food dish and meow as if she needs to be fed.
Yeah,
and
but
so,
she looks at you. She comes out and she looks at you, oh, yeah, I'll come pet me, yeah. And all I have to do is take one inch toward her, and she turns as she walks through her bowl. It's like coming out to like, oh, I want you to come pet me, oh, I want to see you, and then boom, straight to the bowl. It's like trying to sucker you into it.
Yeah, and of course then Brett will feed her, and then she'll have had 2 breakfasts, and which isn't a good thing.
No.
But anyways,
she doesn't need pets before eating at all.
No.
And Fluff actually never finishes her bowl. I mean, Kitty eats it all.
Yeah.
Fluff's just whatever.
Yeah, I just always, when I feed Fluff, I just fill the bowl up full. She never eats to the bottom ever.
Here we are, 2 old people talking about our cats.
Yes,
How
about our cats.
Sad is that?
But we're using this as an
illustration. That's right. Not just talking about our cats.
Yes, you will see. This is why we're talking about our cats.
Yeah.
Because it does play into the story of Jonah as we are telling it today.
Yeah.
And so Brett is going to tell us very quickly the story of Jonah.
Oh, okay. Oh, Aspen has something to add. Yes, Aspen. Oh, the VeggieTales Jonah thing. Yes, if you haven't seen VeggieTales Jonah, there's a whole movie, a whole song, and it kind of, you know, I guess summarizes Jonah's whole story. Maybe we'll put that at the end of the video. Anyway, Jonah was a prophet of God. See, now I'm saying the song. Jonah was a prophet who never really got it.
Sad but true.
Sad but true. Anyway, he was a prophet of God. He was a very popular prophet of God. I mean, like, he was, you know, he had status. He really has, you know, and he was, you know, looked up to by many people, and, you know, he was the, you know, top dog, as it were, you know, and he gave the word of God to the people, you know. And, you know, a lot of times it's probably just, you know, admonitions and ways to live and things to do, and, you know, not much. But here, you know, one day, I mean, probably all of you know the story, but, you know, one day God comes and says, go to Nineveh, you know. And so Nineveh, you know, was like Dallas Cowboys and Houston Oilers, or New York Yankees and New York Mets. I mean, they were not, it wasn't just their neighbor. It wasn't just, you know, another country. I mean, they were hated by each other. And so it wasn't just, hey, I want you to go to this foreign land. It's like, you want me to go any other foreign land, anywhere else, not there. It was that kind of a place for the Jews. So for the Israelites, yeah, no, Ninevites were the worst. And So he's not going to go, so he gets on the boat and he heads in the opposite direction and books passage to the furthest possible away from Nineveh. And the big storm comes up, and he knows it's his fault, and he tells the sailors to throw him overboard. They cast the lots, and then they throw him overboard, and the storm stops, and the big fish, and it's a big fish. Everyone whale, but we don't know that it was whale. It was just a really big fish, and which probably was some kind of whale. But anyway, it could have been a kraken, I guess, if such things exist, or the Loch Ness monster who was out for a stroll. Anyway, so he's in the belly 3 days, and while he's in the belly of the whale, he has sort of a, come to Jesus moment, and the whole time lamenting, thinking he's going to die, but the whole time the whale's actually taking him to where God wanted him to be in the first place. And so he throws him up on the beach, and which was a really interesting sight, because just imagine some fisherman on the beach, just and this whale comes up. First of all, that's like there's a whale coming up on the beach, and then blah, and it throws up, and then a guy is there. So here's this guy, and he stands up, and he's covered in whale vomit, and he looks around, and he sees you, and he comes over to you. You're like, I want to hear what this guy has to say. I would listen to him.
Yes, because the Ninevites had the fish god
that was another thing. They worshipped the fish god. And so the guy's singing, this is the fish god, and he just sent this guy. It's probably one of the things that got him in is, his tale of being in a fish, and that was like, oh, tell us more. And so he preaches, and you gotta repent, you're gonna, get destroyed, and they all repent. God doesn't destroy, and Jonah goes up on the cliff and says, "Go, God, it's your choice. Brimstone, fire, I don't care, take it down." And God doesn't. And how detailed am I? The worm, he's hot and complains, and God gives him the coconut tree, and then the worm eats the coconut tree, and he's back to being hot again, and he's miserable, and he's like, why did you ever make me born? The end. Yeah,
it's such an unsatisfying ending. Every time you read it, it just leaves you like a little grated and just, ugh.
Alone on the cliff, even the worm left.
Yeah, and so, this last week, actually, I had intended to do an entirely different story, because we just recently did Jonah, but now we have an entirely different ending to it, or different point to it. So, I woke up early intending to start running through a different story, and somehow or other, I ended up running through Jonah again. And all of a sudden, in the middle of it, I thought, wait a second here. It's believed that probably Jonah wrote the book of Jonah, right? I mean, maybe not, but probably he did.
Yeah. Most evidence and most historians believe it was Jonah who wrote it. Even if he used the scribe, he told the scribe what to write, but Jonah's the author.
Right, so if Jonah wrote it, Jonah knew the ending. He knew what happened. And so why on earth did he end it there, hanging out all his dirty spiritual laundry, basically? I mean, he leaves himself looking pretty bad. And why did he do that? Most of the time, we don't like to make ourselves look that bad, right? Especially when it comes to our spiritual lives. And he was known as a true prophet of God. Now he's hanging this out for everybody to see, and yet, here's a different way of looking at it. Basically, his audience that he was writing to at that point in time would have known the ending as well.
Yeah, and brief theological insight here. One of the evidences that we believe, like Jonah wrote Jonah, and the tale of the Israelites and the wandering in the wilderness and all that are true, is because if you compare Jewish literature of the day to other, kingdoms and writers of other countries, it was very common practice, as it is most of today anyway, is that, if you're writing it, you make yourself look the best in the end. The ending leaves you the hero. You polish up the history so that you look good. And everyone did this except the Israelites. And throughout the Old Testament, they don't change the story or the details to make themselves look better. They tell the truth just like it is. And here you have, obviously, Jonah doing the same thing and taking a step further. He doesn't polish it, and in the end, I turned and found Jesus, and we're besties now. He specifically leaves it hanging, much like a French art film.
I don't like those kinds of films. I've probably never even watched one because it doesn't appeal to me.
I've watched them, and they don't work. You just end up at the end like, well, I just wasted 2 hours of my life. But anyway, yes, there's no ending.
Yeah. So basically, Jonah knew who his audience was, and they were the contemporary Jews of his time, right?
Yeah.
And so he knew that they were just as patriotic basically as he was. They hated the Ninevites equally as much as he did. I can imagine sitting around Saturday nights, Wednesday nights, whatever, at the club, or whatever guys do, sitting in their living rooms on top of their roofs back then, and they would talk about how horrible and awful the Ninevites were. Probably they hated them, because don't people talk politically about their enemies like that even today?
You have a group of people who believe they are better than everybody else, and this was one of the attitudes the Israelites had, because they were God's chosen people, and they knew it. It's like, the prettiest girl in school, the most handsome guy in school, and they know they are. And the kind of attitude that goes with that, well, that's how the Israelites were. They were this group of people that felt they were the chosen, and all other peoples were less than. And then they, kind of looked down upon. So that's something Jesus ran into big time with the Pharisees and stuff. But, it's interesting, the parallels of this to, today, are groups of people who always believe they're better than others, or they are more right than others, and how they view others.
You're right. In which case is how it leads people to, insisting on being right, even should they recognize they're wrong, and doing wrong things to support their rightness.
Yeah.
So anyways, Jonah knew that if God asked anybody else, any other Jewish person, to do the same thing he asked Jonah to do, and the same outcome would have come of it, he knew that anybody reading that ending would have known exactly how he felt, and they would have done the very same thing. They wouldn't have thought of him as wrong at all, and yet we look at it and we cringe. Okay, so I have to wonder, basically, possibly, he ended it like that because he knew who his readers were, and he knew that he wanted them to see what they really were. He
hold up a mirror in reflection, because if he's writing to these people, a lot of them would have been, especially in his contemporary day, a lot of them would be like, well, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, God, do what Jonah, this is Jonah, and these are the Ninevites, and he was probably trying to reflect who they were, or where they were in their lives with him. They would identify with him, and he would try and reflect back to them, do you see where this attitude brought me, where it brought me to? See yourself in me, because he's bringing them to the edge of that story without an ending, and now he's got, and how do you choose?
Right, but you have to wonder, in order for him to leave it hanging there and writing it like that so that other people could see that, he had to recognize that he was wrong when that happened.
Yeah.
And so let's just say probably he had a change of heart. What if he left Nineveh and he went home to his homeland and he starts preaching, love the Ninevites! Love the Ninevites. Hey, we got to start doing business with the Ninevites. Let's invite them over for Thanksgiving dinner. Let's, our kids can go to school together, play together, and all this kind of stuff. And can you imagine the reception that he would have received for that? I mean, they could very well have said, you think they're so great, just go and live with them if you think they're so great. But they aren't going to come here and live in my town with me, and I'm not going there to hang out with them.
Yeah, to kind of put it in context, imagine any political, religious group, we have today of some extreme, belief, and imagine God taking one of them and sending them to the other side, the opposite of their belief system, and they being converted, and then going back into their group and preaching to them the exact opposite of what they stand for, and how that would go over. It would be traumatic. And that's kind of what Jonah's faced with, is coming from the people who would have rallied to his belief, like with the Ninevites, to him going back and going, you know what, I think we're wrong here. We got this wrong, backwards. we're going to have a big feast, and we're going to invite them to our feast. And how well that would have gone over.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all, yeah. In fact is, I know some families recently who, used to always get together for Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff, and they don't anymore because they hold different political beliefs, and it's really too bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the last few years. There were just families can't get together, and here Jonah's sending back not just to his family, but his people, and
This is patriotic
yeah,
people, yes.
quoting Psalms, and the Lord prepares us a table before us in the presence of our enemies, and that probably wouldn't have gone over well. It's like, yes, and guess who's the main course? You are, Jonah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. And he said, I used to be annoyed that the writer of the book of Jonah ended it in the middle of nowhere, but that's not what the writer did at all. The writer skillfully manipulated his readers, who would also no doubt have known the end of the story. But he left it in a place that left the reader with the opportunity of some hopefully honest personal reflection. And he didn't point any fingers. He didn't make any accusations. He just told his personal story and left the opportunity for his reader to identify who they were in this drama.
Yeah, and if you think about it, you read Jonah, and it's so easy. How many of you read it and go, oh, poor old Jonah, got to use a megaphone. He did not get the point. But, and we've always looked down on Jonah, like, yeah, what was his problem? But when you look at it the way, Moran's taking this here, you got to think, that is one skillful writer. That is like, wow, he really...
He had to have known the end of the story.
Yeah.
He was Jonah. It happened to him.
Yeah.
Why did he leave it right there?
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
For a very, very good reason, clearly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so this is where I think Jonah is pointing out that relationships, our first of all relationship with God, and then living that out towards other people, even loving our enemies, is where God wants us to be first and foremost, before the stuff in our lives, before our own political agendas and anything like that.
Yeah, it's emphasizing relationships, which, if you're an Adventist, we did Ephesians today, and all of Ephesians, the first 3 chapters, is about that loving each other and being in unity and being together, as a family and a people in the love of God, and that relationship is more important than anything. Yeah.
Yes.
Was that it?
Yes, it's really short today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, short and to the point, and I hope you enjoyed that possible alternate ending to the story of Jonah. Maybe not, but it was fun to think of it possibly being the reason why he left it hanging there.
Yeah, so others could see themselves in him and his story, which is what all good stories are supposed to do, and and encouraging us to what will you choose?
Yeah, will you choose relationship, or are you just going to go ahead and cling to your rightness and be wrong in the process?
Yeah, and sit there in resentment. Cling to right and all your wrongness. I like that. Anyway, all right. So that was fun. Thanks for joining us. We were broadcasting indoors today because here in Texas we're still in big triple digits and heat and stuff. And hopefully it's cool where you're at. And I guess next week, I don't know where we'll be broadcasting from. Hopefully somewhere else we can show you some interesting things. And have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.